Morning, everybody. Welcome to Hobby Hotline. This is episode number 76. It's Saturday, July the 24th, 2021. We got a big week ahead in the hobby. Before we get to today's topics and discussion, welcome everybody in the chat. Welcome our esteemed colleagues and co-hosts tonight, Dr. Beckett. We have Rich Klein, and new to the Hobby Hotline panel, Sam Shuford from Women of the Hobby. Sam, welcome to the Hobby Hotline co-host panel. It's great to have you. How are you this morning?
Hi. Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm excited to, I guess, make my debut here. But yeah, I'm just excited to be a part of this and talk cards again as usual.
No doubt. Rich, how are you today?
Well, as I noted, I had a wretched Thursday night, ending up in the ER with what we believe now is just a sprained AC joint. So I told Sam that I slept sitting up, so every half hour or so I felt like a spy. I kept watching her episodes, which were great to watch in half-hour things. So I'm so excited that I actually get to share the stage with her.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's great to have Sam on the panel with us. And Dr. Jim, how are you this morning?
I'm great. The Hobby Hotline is always unpredictably fun.
Wonderful. So before we hop into the first topic and see who we have in the chat, let's just put this on the ticker right there. There's for the call-in, everybody. The link is right there. I will also throw that into the chat right now. Let's just get that going. There we go. Should show up on YouTube, Facebook, and the purple one. I'm not even sure what that purple one is. It should show up there as well. So we do have some topics, guys, loaded and ready to go. There's a couple of exciting ones. Dr. Beck, you know what? Let's start with this one, with Entrust Global being, I believe, the owner of Beckett Media, acquires Southern Hobby Supply. So who wants to take this? What does this one mean for the hobby? Jim, Rich?
Well, I'll just say that considering the supply issues that all companies are having, getting a hobby supply under your control as part of your umbrella does enable you, in case anything ever happens, like if you have a shortage of supplies, it gets you instant, like top of the line, you're first in line to get some supplies. It also gets, as Jim, I guess Mark Harwell used to say, we want to be a full service company. I'm not getting it right, but Jim can explain. This is something I believe Mark Harwell always expounded upon. So get Jim to talk about marketing and get Sam's opinion too.
Jim, what do you think?
Well, I mean, there's so much coming together in the industry that platforms are being established that are being broader based. So PSA is expanding into areas that you would think, well, why are they going to pull that in? Well, it's a bigger play going on. But the quote that you have there, Jeremy, if you typed it in, that's pretty accurate, because it's Entrust Global that purchased or that acquired Southern Hobby, not Beckett. Jeremy is president of Beckett Collectibles. Entrust Global is the owner of Beckett. I think Jeremy is not going to be running Southern Hobby Supply. In fact, Kevin Isaacson, another hobby veteran, I think is going to be very involved, and I'm happy about that. But it's Entrust Global, so this is another portfolio company within that group. Just like I don't think that the PSA is going to run Golden. So they're going to be friendly. They're going to be friendly, and there's going to be opportunities for symbiosis.
Yeah, some synergies potentially, but that makes complete sense to me that they're not. It's not Beckett that has acquired them. And that's a key distinction. I think a lot of people think that, just like when Collectors Holdings acquired Golden, a lot of people just assumed that means that PSA now bought Golden, but that was not the case at all. These are going to be two mutually exclusive companies, just like Beckett and Southern Hobby will remain mutually exclusive. Yet there will obviously be some I like how you put it, some symbioses that'll try to be achieved.
Well, and Trust Global has a long history of acquiring companies. They love to acquire things, that ownership group, and they run them kind of separately, and they really run them in a way that they expect each of these entities to make money on their own and not think, well, we lost a little bit of money, but then we help these other guys. No, I think they're all about bringing efficiency to it, and Sandeep is going to be involved, who's the CEO, and Kevin, who's strong. So,
Sam, anything from your perspective on this? What did you think when you first heard about this?
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of just like these companies, they're kind of picking up other companies as they go along. But I do agree. I think they will operate, in their own terms, in their own ways. But I do think there is opportunity for those efficiencies, as you just kind of said. Like, I think they're going to learn things from each other and just overall make both those companies stronger, I think, together.
Well said. Really well said. Way to sort of maybe wrap that up. We do have a caller, guys. We have Torsten, not on video, but on audio, I believe. Torsten, good morning. Are you with us?
Torsten's in Germany. Torsten. Well, okay. Torsten is the theoretical nuclear physics PhD that I've gone back and forth with and had a delightful time discussing not cerebral issues, but interesting issues within the hobby. And I've got another episode coming up with him because he frequently sends me these very thoughtful commentary on what's going on in the industry. So welcome, Torsten. Are you here? He literally is in Germany.
Yeah, could be.
I've heard those interviews, Jim. The two of you are fascinating when you're together.
Yeah. Well, Rich, he's not going to supplant you as my.
I don't want. Hey, listen. I have my own. I have my own little niche that I'm very happy with.
He's my favorite co-host or co-guest from Europe.
Well, hopefully he calls back. I'd love to hear what he says. He is wonderful.
He dropped off, not our doing, but he dropped off. So let's go to the comments. We've got Ziggy No from Sports Cards Daily. Good morning, Ziggy. Good morning, Absolute Authentics. Torsten was commenting. Michael Ham is here. Good morning, Michael Ham. Great to see you. Brody the Kid, fellow co-host. Good morning, Brody. And DR, morning all. What are your thoughts on taking kids to the National with the increasing COVID Delta variant? I think we will see fewer kids. That's a great segue, guys, into let's talk about this, into the fact that we have the National starting up in 4 days from now. So what are your thoughts on the, I guess, the uptick in pandemic cases and children at the National? I'll open the floor here to Jim, Rich, or Sam. Who wants to address that?
One, not relating to the National, but one thing I've noticed even here in Texas is after a while of people really not wearing masks, I'm noticing an uptick in people everywhere starting to put on their masks again. So it's definitely having an effect in terms of personal safety. In fact, yesterday I got a call from one of our old Beckett teammates, Pat Blanford, who said, with all the people around, I'm probably going to be masked up for all 4 days or 5 days I'm selling at Kevin Savage's booth. It was good to hear from Pat, but it was also like, even Pat understands that I'm going to take whatever precautions I have for myself, my wife, and my family. So I think we will see a higher preponderance of mask wearing than we would have even a month ago.
What do you guys think, Rich? What do you think, like, if you're an individual who is vaccinated completely, whether single, double, whatever you need for your choice of vaccination, do you feel that people that are fully vaccinated will also take that precaution, or will they feel a little bit more protected?
Honestly, from what I'm seeing down here, I think the ones that are fully vaccinated are taking more precautions than the ones that aren't.
That makes sense. That does make sense. Quick good morning to Royals 417. Jim, any comments? Sam, any comments on the COVID aspect of the National before we kind of, let's set that aside and talk about exciting things about the National?
I kind of echo what Rich is saying. Obviously, I think it's in the U.S., at least kids under 12, the vaccine isn't like approved for them yet. So that could be interesting to see if you like fewer kids, which would kind of be disappointing. But I definitely understand that like safety is the first thing. But also I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, so I've also seen more people wearing masks. And I would agree. I think it's those who are vaccinated who are still wearing masks more. So honestly, yeah, I'm kind of debating. Like, I personally am fully vaccinated, but I'm kind of like, there is a bit of an uptick. Like, I'm still kind of on the fence of, will I wear my mask the whole time? You know, that type of thing. I more so just do it like based on those around me, like the crowd that I'm with. Like, if they're okay without it, I'm okay. But if people are, you know, I just kind of want to be accommodating to people.
Fair enough. And Doctor?
There's a serious downtick in the in deaths and hospitalizations and compared to what it was. So, but you just can't talk about a 12-year-old kid. It's which 12-year-old kid. If you had a 12-year-old kid and he's a serious, passionate collector, and you say, "Oh, you know what? We live in the outskirts of Chicago, but I'm not going to take you to the National, Billy, because you know the kid's going to freak out." You know, if he's pretty set, if he's a serious collector, if he's say, I'm going to take you to the National to find out what's going on, and you've never been to a card show, maybe that kid will pass. Okay, Dad or Mom, I don't know. But a passionate young person, I just think it's going to be hard to convince them, because it's all of COVID is a risk reward kind of a thing. There are risks associated with every behavior, and I think if you're a serious collector, you're really going to want to be there, and you're going to mask up. You're going to make sure have done your vaccinations well enough in advance that those are you're secure, and you're not going to do stupid stuff walking around people that are coughing in your face.
You know, one thing I remember from when Kyle did his first shows last year after all this began is we're seeing upticks in people attending, but there was originally some hesitancy in people coming to the show, or people wearing or not wearing masks. I think we're starting to hit a good mix of that. But many of us in the National who are going haven't seen many of the people in 2 years. And missing an opportunity to see the people you haven't seen in 2 years seeing those people is a major reason to go. You know, in addition to all the business that gets done, it's almost as important to see everybody.
That's, I think, one of the main drivers actually for so many people. And I think with the way the hobby's gone, you know, price-wise, a lot of people are feeling like their dollar isn't going to go as far this year as it would have in prior years. So one of the biggest motivations, and for myself, it's, you know, I'm going to see people, meet more people, network, rub shoulders with all the people that I've had the pleasure of meeting over the past 18 months. That to me is as important, if not more important, as the cards I might come away with. You know, I'm going to hopefully pick up a few cards for the PC, but I wanted to go around the horn here and just let's hear how many nationals everyone has been to. I know the answer to at least 3 of us, but you know, personally, I think this will be my 13th or so national. Dr. Beckett, not to steal your thunder, but I think everybody knows you've never missed a national, so that's pretty amazing. Rich, how about you? You're pretty close to the same thing?
I'm in the mid-30s.
Mid-30s, okay.
I'm in the mid-30s. I lost count. This will probably be about 34 or 35, give or take. There was like a 30-year stretch where I didn't miss one, and then, so I want to say this is probably 34, 35.
So, okay, so another big number, but let's hear from Sam, who's, you know, obviously new to the show and maybe new to the National. Sam, will this be your first, or have you been before?
This will be my first. So yeah, I think I'm in for a world of, you know, what to expect, but yeah, I'm excited.
So let's do this quick. What are you most excited for?
Honestly, I think it's what you were saying. Like, I think I'm more excited to meet the people that I've been talking to on the internet for the past year, 18 months, that I haven't met in person ever. So that's super exciting for me, is to go there, get to meet those people. Yeah, like people are always asking, like, you know, are you looking to pick up anything? What's your game plan for the National? And kind of just like, you know, I'm just going to go in, I'm not necessarily focusing on what to pick up in terms of cards, but I'm more so focusing on meeting everyone that I want to see. Because yeah, you just kind of, this opportunity for us all to meet together is, once a year, hopefully, for the next few years. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's no doubt. Same here. And not only for the show hours itself, but the extracurricular activities, that calendar. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but it's filling. There are so many parties and trade nights and gatherings happening Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. I think I've got 16 items in my evening calendar already. Saturday is clear still, which is kind of nice. It seems like all the companies and groups that are arranging things, everyone seems to be a little scared to go Saturday night because they thought, well, that's when everyone's going to do it. Nobody that I know of has booked a Saturday night event, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are jam packed. Jim, Rich, has that been your guys' experience historically at the National?
Well, I will tell you, by Saturday night, everybody's exhausted and doesn't want to create anything. But Jeremy, we're welcome to do dinner Saturday night. I don't have anything on my calendar either. So you and I and the Hobby Hotline crew, we'll do our own Hobby Hotline dinner. If whoever can make it. But I know I've gotten a couple of things that have popped in, which are fine. I'm not looking to overschedule myself. Nowadays it's such an endurance contest, and I don't try. When I was in my 20s, I tried to get everything in those 4 days in a row. And now it's like, you know what? I'm happy going to my room and saying, you know what? I'm done for the day. I'm just going to chill, maybe hang out in the lobby. If I was Sam's age, I'd be looking for things to do. I'm not eternally young like Dr. Beckett. So I'm happy with what's currently on my social calendar. And as I said, if we in Hobby Hotline don't have anything planned and we do a Saturday night dinner of us just getting together, I'm fine with that too. But seriously, and I'm repeating myself, but by Saturday night, we're usually just all in. And that's, you're in the middle of 5-6 days there. And I know already my friend I saw on Facebook, my friend Hank Rees is Arizona Hank, and his buddy, they've already begun to drive from Arizona. I saw my friend Megan Brogy posted on Facebook, and she's part of the national team. She's on her way. So for some people, by Saturday night, it's more than a week already.
Yeah, it's gonna be exhausting. There's no doubt. Jim, any thoughts on from you?
Well, two things. One, I'm going to be not doing a content creators dinner on Saturday or any other night. I'm just going to be a guy that goes to a couple of dinners with some old friends, some of the nights. But not to put a damper on it, but when we're talking about the COVID situation, the COVID environment, where, to put my scientist hat on, a statistician hat, the chances for COVID are greatly reduced if you're having one-on-one discussions with a dealer behind a table, as opposed to being a crowded room in a party like a bar where you're shouting with a large group of people that are mingling. I mean, that's the chances of getting COVID, or when you're in this huge festive group. If you're just buying a card from somebody behind a table, you're 6 feet away in many cases. So be careful. But who's going to wear a mask at a party? I don't think so. In fact, Pat Blanford, who's not known for brevity, how long can he keep his mask on when he's so engaging with all the customers? I mean, I just think it's going to be difficult. And the party and the bar scene is the most COVID-rich potential environment. And 12-year-olds probably won't be there.
Yeah, not at the bars anyway. Yeah, it's gonna be sort of a constant. I think, some people aren't gonna even think about it, and many will. It's just the way it's been from the beginning, I suppose. So, shall we go to some of the comments we have, guys, that have come through, and see what's going on there? So, Torsten did let us know technical problems. So thanks for trying to Torsten. Good morning to Racing Card Info. Ziggy welcomes Sam to the show. Great addition. Looking forward to your insights. John Newman wants to welcome, also a co-host, wants to welcome Sam to Hobby Hotline. Awesome to have you on the team, and brings our average age down some more too. It sure does on this particular panel here, guys. Carvin Chung joins us, says everyone mask up. Another huge collector fell unconscious and is recovering in hospital today, has spent millions over the last 6 months. Fist bumps only for me. No doubt, no doubt. Ziggy says, I can't wait for post-national hobby. I just want to enjoy the hobby and collect a few solid players in my favorite sports. Yeah, can't argue with that one. Racing Card Info, welcome Sam. Ziggy says more trips to the National than Sam is years old on the panel. That's actually quite true. Johnny, good morning to all. Wish a good morning to you, Johnny. Good morning to you. Ziggy says that Saturday is normally the Panini VIP night. Most don't want to compete with the best VIP party in the business. My understanding was they weren't having it this year.
That is correct. That is correct. They have announced there's no, and that's something else. I know Mr. Newman, who was nice enough to post, and also now is the voice of Collectible, when he announced the sale of the $3.5 million 53 Topps Mantle PSA 10.
Yeah.
Is they're going to push off the party. They're still going to have a corporate presence. They're still going to do things, but it's almost as we suspected it will be in a different mode. I know Logan Ward, who's another host, mentioned there's no PSA luncheon this year.
Right.
So, we are seeing different events and different things. So there will be some different. Sorry, John, I missed the number. I thought it was 3.5. But we will see events, and we will also see private get-togethers, and we'll see people like me who has said there'll be times where I just say, you know what, I'll go back to my room and chill, and that's okay. And that's okay too.
In the COVID world, smaller is better.
Yeah. True. Okay, a few more comments, guys. The chat's been great. About the cards, just says howdy from the background. Great to see you about the cards. And then DR says, thanks for the thoughtful conversation. I think if someone isn't tied into the community as much as you all are, they might pass. It almost sounds like an academic conference for the pros in the hobby. Yeah, Rich, you're shaking your head. I think we're all shaking our head on that. That's who wants to address that one?
I will, based on what's going on with Society of American Baseball Research, which really is much more academic than baseball cards. I have fun when I've gone to the Saber conventions, but they've now canceled the last two. And granted, the people who go to the Saber conventions do tend to skew older. But it'll be 4 years between some people seeing each other who used to go every year to those. But the fun at the Saber convention is hanging in the hotel lobby and chatting with people. And some people enjoy the seminars or the trivia contests or going to the games. Here, unless you're really intense, 98% of us in the hobby have fun doing it. And the fun is, and I think that's the difference. We have fun being there. We have fun doing it. If we're going to smile when we see each other, I'm going to smile when I see my friends, or as close to being smiling through a mask as possible.
Yeah. Sorry, Rick, I just know that people shouldn't forget that at the heart of this, at the core of this, it's a card show. That it is a card show. There are hundreds and hundreds of tables filled with cards. So it doesn't, there are ancillary events going on, and there's public trader nights. There's a lot to do there. It doesn't matter if you're an extrovert, an introvert, if you're connected within the hobby, or you're brand new to the hobby and don't really know anybody. You're going to be among like-minded people, and if you like cards, I think you're going to have a good time. So I really just want to stress it is really for everybody. Jim?
Hey, Jeremy, I just had one quick thing. That's a thoughtful comment, but DR mentions the pros in the hobby, and I'm struck by the fact that maybe that person thinks that everybody that comes to the show is a pro. If they are, it's in the same sense that basketball players who never went to college immediately step into the pros. Because people coming to this national, it could be there's going to be a large group of people that have like Sam, who have never been to a national, because there's so much of an influx of people coming into the hobby. And I think getting up to speed, thanks to your podcast and many others, getting up to speed to where they think they can compete, that they can be pros, they can trade some serious dollars. And so I think there's a lot of pros. I don't think they're going to be a little bit of deer in the headlights, because this is the biggest show they will have ever been to. But they're gonna be acting like pros. So I do affirm that part of it, that this is like a professional event. That and I agree, if somebody they're going to pass if they're worried about COVID and they're not into it that much.
And Sam, and I'm going to direct this one comment at you. I want to assure you of something. Every time I step into a national, I feel overwhelmed every time I first look at the floor. If you feel overwhelmed, do not be afraid. It is a normal reaction to seeing the show floor. The late, great Mike Burkus used to say he'd look at the empty floor and say, how the heck am I going to fill up this floor? Or how the heck are we going to fill up this floor? And it gets done. Mm-hmm. If you get overwhelmed, don't panic. Don't go into a panic attack. Find a friendly face, say hi, do a 5-minute conversation, get yourself ready. You were at the Atlanta show, 2 weeks ago? Last week?
Yeah, I was at the Atlanta show, which was a bit smaller. I'd say the biggest show I've been to was at the Dallas show in March, and I was even overwhelmed at that. So I can only imagine the Nashville.
March was probably the high water point of the Dallas show. It was that one was just off the charts. To say Jim was there, I was there, and the last Dallas card show was great on Saturday and Sunday, but it was way off Thursday, Friday. And I think a lot of the content creators and a lot of the people that brought the extra energy to the room went to Atlanta this week. Other than our mutual friend Ryan Nolan, who just young and can really travel the world, he did both shows. Other than him, I think most of the content creators went to Atlanta last weekend, and I think that took a lot of the energy off the first couple days. But Saturday, Sunday, Dallas Card Show were really good because all the locals showed up.
So listen, we've got the Dallas Card Show recap as a topic. Let's segue into that. But first, I want to run through some comments. We've got a caller. We'll bring him on, and then we'll talk about Dallas show. Sound good, everybody?
Yep.
All right. So first off, we've got 3B Collection. Good morning to you. Welcome to the show. It says, good to see a fresh face. Speaking about our esteemed colleague, Sam Shuford. Ziggy says lots of new voices in the hobby on the main stage. It's a very social media national. That's a good point. It really is. Will be great to attend virtually through friends in the hobby. I think that's an astute comment. Carl Dykstra says we were at the National in 2019 and consigned some items to Heritage Auctions. Would love to go this time, but we'll enjoy getting all the podcasters. Again, building off what Ziggy said, there's going to be a lot of content from the show. So if you're not there, you're still going to get to experience it somewhat. And Carvin affirms again, no Panini VIP party at the National this year. Let's bring on the O.
Hi, everyone.
Well, good morning. How are you?
Doing fine. If we can continue talking about National, very excited to go this year.
Yeah.
And what do you think is going to be more crazy? This year's National, one of the highest, posted people that ever attended a National in 1991. For those that have been there, of course. Well, what do you think is going to be more crazy?
Dr. Beckett was at the first one. What do you think?
Well, it's going to be quite a bit bigger than the first one, but if he's comparing to 1991 in Anaheim, it would have to be real. If it even approaches that, it would be spectacular because that was more than 100,000 people. So we'll see. I hope it does.
As I've stated, at the 91 National, I actually felt afraid for my life on the first trade show night. We got there in time. We were in the building, and it was just such a major horde for the promos that I and a couple dealers I had gotten to know since I'd moved down to Texas from Arkansas. And we just headed to the concession stands and hung out there until we felt the storm had passed. That's how intense the 91 National was, and that was the promo show night. The rest of the show was like that too. And it was just a whirlwind. That whole weekend was a whirlwind, and it was also a shorter period of time. I think we are getting a break in that it's a longer National. I think that does diffuse some of the intensity that was in those 4 days in 91, because they got that into a shorter time frame.
Question for our caller. What are you most looking forward to at the National this year?
I'm looking forward to Ramp Redemptions, meeting people from this show and on Twitter. I'll be there all 5 days.
Great.
Hope to meet a lot of you there.
Yeah, make sure you say hello when you see anyone you recognize, I'm sure.
And Jeremy, why don't you point out where your base of operations is going to be at the National?
Oh, sure. Thanks, Rich. Yeah, I will be set up with a couple of banners, a table, and 2 chairs at the Iconic Auctions booth, which is booth 866, and right beside the Leaf booth. So as sort of a beacon for that, and I will have
the Iconic booth.
Yeah, 866. So I'll have the computer, the camera, the mic, and ready to do some streaming from there intermittently. No real schedule, but whenever somebody, my plan is sort of to, if you're there and you wanna do a quick stream and just talk about what you're experiencing, how you're enjoying it, what you've picked up, what you've seen, highlights, vibe, energy, that kind of thing. So. Okay, well, anything else from you? Want to appreciate you calling in. Any other comments?
No, not really. Just hope. Yeah, congrats on the new co-host. Hope to see a lot of you there again. I won't have a booth, of course. I'm like 16. But again, I'll try to sell stuff. I'll be trading and trying to sell stuff. Gonna bring some cards.
Good stuff. Well, we'll see you there. Thanks for calling in. Have a good rest of the day.
No problem.
Okay, pal. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. A couple more comments, guys. Let's talk about Dallas. And Ziggy says, are there early attendance numbers? I want to see 100K crushed in 2021, 30 years later. How many VIP tickets were there? I don't know the answers to any of those. Anybody have any comments on that?
The number I know from 1988 was 22,321 people attended. It was such an easy number to remember. That's how I know it. It was in Atlantic City. And we thought that was a huge crowd at the time. I guarantee you there were more people in Chicago in 89. And by 91, we exploded. And yet, 22,000 people over basically 3 days is a lot of people. We only had 400 tables. That's plenty fine for everybody. So it's a bigger world today too. We can't really compare in some ways attendance numbers of the 80s or even the 90s to today's. No breaker booths, really no autograph pavilion, no corporate pavilion. There are different reasons for people to go today than just buying and selling cards.
Will we break 100,000 people, Rich?
I'm not sure. We're totally sold out of, when I say we as a hobby are totally sold out of VIP tickets. The National created some new early admission tickets, I guess, just to get in the door. They sold out of those. I've seen a couple posts of people trying to buy VIP badges or whatever, before they get there, instead of going through early admission line, then they're willing to spend more money so they don't have to wait in line.
Yeah,
we don't know. It's exciting, it's thrilling, and it's scary in a way. And I don't have an answer. And this is one of the rare things that I can tell you. I have no clue on.
Yeah, it's a tough one to take a guess at. I don't think any of us really have much of a clue. Let's just let everyone know. Brody the Kid will have a table by the SIGs for Soldiers and handbid booths. So everybody, please stop by and say hi. We will, Brody. Great to see you. So do you guys want to talk about the Dallas Card Show? Do a quick review of that. I obviously wasn't there. I've never been to it. I can't wait to get to a Dallas Card Show, hopefully in the next several months' time. But who was there? I know you were there, Rich. Jim, were you there this last time? Yeah. Sam?
No, I wasn't there this last time, but I was there in the March show.
Okay, so Jim, why don't you give us your review?
Well, I think Rich, I actually spent most of Sunday in Rich's room. Rich had a special room that was kind of vintage and some little more sedate than so I did a deal there and circulated around. As Rich said, I wasn't there Thursday, but Friday was really pretty slow. Which sort of is good for buyers, because I'm looking to just pick up interesting things. So it wasn't very crowded. Saturday picked up quite a bit. The concept I'm working on now is just like baseball analytics, wins above replacement. Okay, I'm looking at the Dallas Card Show as wins above replacement. Replacement is I stay home.
Yeah.
So was it several wins above replacement to go to the show and have a great time? The fact that it wasn't quite as good as the May show, wasn't quite as good as the March show. Both of those were all-star caliber, MVP caliber war. Wins above replacement. So the July show was merely a really good show, but a drop off from these spectacular shows of the two before. So Rich, Sam, you were there in March.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to get much better than that.
Yeah. March was pretty crazy. I mean, that being one of my, like, I'd been to some local shows in Atlanta and like in South Carolina, but that was like nothing I'd really ever seen. It was really crazy. And yeah, that was at the peak of just like everything, I think, at that moment too.
Matt Boobard, back to the net, says all those people plus Delta variant equals no mask mandate equals lots of people are going to get sick. Please wear a mask. Probably some good advice right there for as far as this upcoming national. And okay, so the Dallas Card Show, I mean, I can only imagine. I lived vicariously through content creators for the March show. I forget which one it was, Jim, where you did your content creators dinner and enjoyed. Yeah, the May one, enjoyed all your episodes. I gotta say, I know you are very stringent on your 15-minute podcast, and I was listening to each and every one. It's like, oh, I was so disappointed each time it ended, and when it was all over, I just wanted more. But thank you for sharing those with the hobby in the event. Okay, we still have some topics. We still have about 20 minutes and some comments coming in. So let's go to this one here quick, guys. Ziggy wants to know, did you see the DJ Ski Topps card national exclusive? Haven't yet, Ziggy, but I did ask DJ Ski to hold one for me, and he gave me thumbs up, so hopefully he does. Okay. Next topic, guys. Why don't we talk about the Panini NIL license? This one's outside my wheelhouse. So, Rich, you want to start this one off?
Yeah, I think it's Panini had for years had we'll call it the college license, where they can do the uniforms, they can print it. And their point when they originally did it was things like Charles Barkley wasn't an active NBA player anymore, so they really couldn't always get Barkley into an NBA uniform to sign when they got his signature, but they could put him in an Auburn uniform too and have him sign cards for their, let's say, draft pick products in a real uniform, in an Auburn uniform. So it was for them, it was a good synergy as the word goes. I think with what's going on with NIL, names, imaging, licensing, or whatever the terms are, it's a brilliant move because it lets the athletes have another option to get paid while they're in college, which competes with the pros. Sometimes you're not ready to be in the pros at age 19. Even the G League, if you're an NBA player, if you're a basketball player, you might not even be ready for the G League. You might need a year or two, and if you can make money, you don't feel the same pressure to have to go into professionalism. So I think for Panini, it's a great move. I think Panini is they're very smart people that own the company, that think of these things. And I think I'd like to get one other thing in addition to that, and especially I'd like to get Jim's input, is the SPAC, the SPAC, that's also looking into Panini and has valued them at like $3 billion, and that's billions with a B. So there's a lot going on with Panini. But I think they're making very wise moves. This can only increase their corporate value.
Let's get Sam's perspective on the NIL license, and then the SPAC is a great topic from there. Sam, any insights?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's like good from the athlete's perspective as well. But I'm just like curious as to how collectible these cards will be, just because I know there are some like really big college collectors, but I'm just not sure how much that will extend as well. So I just don't know, but I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. So that's kind of my only, I guess, like hesitation is if there is like a true demand for these types of cards. yeah, I guess we'll just have to see. I don't know if they're going to be doing it, I guess, this college year, probably, but we'll see.
How about you, Jim? Any comments on the license, or do you want to any comments on the A-Rod SPAC?
Well, on the NIL thing, I mean, basically, this is what Sam was saying. There's people out there that are hoping that she is representative of many people who are going to wait and see, because there are going to be people pouncing on this, and the chaos is going to lead to opportunity. With Panini coming in and doing this with this one team group that's going to gather up the athletes, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the NCAA because they're the gatekeeper that say, oh, you can do it. They grudgingly allowed this, but you can't use your uniforms. You can't tie into the school. Once that is resolved, and it will be, because there'll be too much money for the NCAA not to make that accommodation so they can get a piece of the pie. And Panini's going to be first one to market with college sets that are very comprehensive and very interesting. And it's going to be, I won't say it'll be like minor league cards, but there'll be pre-rookies. And there'll be people jumping on that.
Victor joins us, the rookie card specialist, and he says, what will be the COMC identifier for these NIL cards?
I don't know. That's a decision at COMC above my pay grade. And frankly, at this point in my life, I don't want to be involved in those decisions. Whatever they tell me, I will follow.
Well, it's a deterministic thing, Rich. I mean, they determine the rookie year for the player, and then anything before that is a PRC, I think. Pre-rookie card.
I agree with you, Jim. I'm just saying that I don't want to comment on something I have no.
I know, but it will come down to you, because it will be determined. And Victor, studies these things. I liked it better when he was the rookie card theorist, Jamie.
So, Sam, what do you think on that?
On the pre-rookie card?
Yes,
I'm not too familiar with like a pre-rookie card. Actually, I feel like I haven't been super educated on like.
Okay, so in simplest terms, there used to be minor league cards of baseball. So Ricky Henderson has a 1979 Ogden A's card, and then he has a 1980s Topps rookie card. So this is a simple example. The 79 TCMA minor league card is a pre-rookie card.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting. I think there are a lot, like just with all the products now, I think it's kind of inevitable that there's going to be more of these pre-rookie cards coming out. But yeah, it's just definitely something to wait and see kind of what this demand is for it.
That's a smart perspective. I wish I had that type of perspective when I was in my 20s.
So related to COMC, I want to bring this comment up from Sports Cards Daily Ziggy No. He says, and he's talking to Brody, but he says, I think COMC and StarStock should offer free processing to kids to help them start accounts, to which Brody replies, I agree, Ziggy. It's hard for kids to sell online. Now, I never want to tell a company to give away something for free, but this is a suggestion that I really like. I don't know the free part. I hesitate there, but it might be a great investment in the future for some of these companies that have these platforms. Anyone have any comments on that? Because, we're always talking about kids in the hobby, and I think there's more than people are aware of a lot of the time, but that's not, that's not a bad idea, in my opinion. Thought?
Okay. The one thing, and I'm not sure of the legal issues, is it like, for example, and I've had a card store way back in the day, and if a kid came in and bought a card above their pay grade, so to speak, I remember I had a card store in New Jersey I was managing, and we sold a 1955 Ted Williams card to a kid that usually didn't have much money, and I had their parent call me, or it really was their parent, and said, no, it's okay for him to buy that card at that dollar, because at the time, if you were under 18 years old, you could always return your purchase at any time. And legally, until you were 18, you could return your purchase. And I think there were legal rules about kids under 18 having various types of accounts. And as such, that's what makes it even trickier, because you have those legal issues at the time.
Yeah, you might just need to have a a parental consent box that could be ticked, whether a parent ticks it or the kid does, but that might cover off legal. I'm no lawyer, that's for sure, but that might cover something off legally. I think there's got to be a way around that. But I like the idea. He says here, Ziggy says, Comsky Stars could offer 20 free cards processed in each Panini crate. I don't know how that relates to Panini, but this would build the kids' interest in the subscription and service. Yeah. Okay. We kind of went past the SPAC issue with Panini. Jim, did you have any comments on that? I think Rich was kind of leading you to that earlier.
Well, there'd be 3 billion reasons for Panini to listen very carefully. If somebody, sometimes the time to sell is when somebody wants to buy, and when you say you're not for sale, that just means give me a higher price. I don't think the price needs to be higher than 3 billion. That would certainly get my attention and the attention. But on the other hand, it depends on how you feel about the industry. It's well, let's put it this way. There will be other announcements this year of large companies that change hands and that recapitalized and do other things. So the dollars are just too big. There's too much SPAC money out there and other private equity money. So stuff's going to happen. If it's not an outright acquisition, somebody's going to want a piece of this growing pie, and it's happening all over the place. So Panini should listen, and if they do get acquired, I'm not down on Alex Rodriguez. I'm just saying I really like the idea that if there's new ownership in the hobby, it's not just savvy about the sport, but it's savvy about the idea that collectibles are special.
Well, we all feel that they are. So yes, yeah, it's definitely exciting. We're just going to backtrack quickly here. Logan's comment: do you think NIL will benefit players not playing in the big four sports? Anybody have an answer or a response to that? Rich?
It's already happened.
It already happened.
There are people that, you've seen media responses about people not in the big four sports that have already cashed in. And I'm going to backtrack a couple of years. There was, I believe, a UCLA gymnast who did almost these rock and roll gymnastic performances, and she was very charismatic. And could you imagine, and gymnastics is not a sport with cards, but could you imagine if it was 3 years ago when she had that, how much she would have been able to take advantage at the time of her popularity? I mean, her routines were off the charts. She would get 10s for the floor exercises. And she was once upon a time in the American, we'll call it elite program, before she dropped out of it.
And didn't a Simone Biles card just sell for big, like tens of thousands of dollars, an SI for Kids card?
I'm sure it did. I mean, I know that one of our mutual friends in Dallas, Jim and I have a mutual friend, and he had some Simone Biles cards that he sold at his booth the last couple shows for very good money. She's there's a different level right now, but it's the same situation. She would, if she were in college, she'd be able to cash in very well on that. And I'm happy for her. It's about time these kids got to make money based, they couldn't hold jobs for a lot of times, or they couldn't do college jobs when they were playing sports or do anything else. I'm glad that the field is leveled for them to some extent.
Well, I just need to say, Logan's a very thoughtful guy, but it's ambiguous what the big four sports even are. Is softball part of baseball? Is is auto racing in there? Is NASCAR in there? Is soccer? Is it a big five, a big six? I think what you're going to find is that this Panini and one team link up is more for a broad-based, mass marketed opportunity. But the local opportunities, like Rich said, if you're a gymnast, if you have any following in the town, if you're in a college town, you have an opportunity to represent the pizza parlor and get free pizza for life, or whatever the deal is, as long as you don't put on your college uniform. So the great beneficiaries of this could be the minor sports athletes.
Yeah, Ziggy says,
I think that's great.
Ziggy makes a comment that he thinks it'll help skiers, skateboarders, and other sports. But at the end, I think this is great for kids, but will have impacts we don't see now, and that's an astute point. It will have impacts we don't see now that are tough to predict, and time will tell how that all plays out.
What's going to happen is the coach says, you know what, Jeremy, you weren't hustling on that last play. Take a lap around the field, and you're going to say, sorry, coach, I don't feel like it. Because you need me and I need you, and I'm I have my endorsements, and you're going to get in trouble if you kick me off the team. So quit telling me what to do, coach.
Sam, you mentioned on one of your podcasts you played intramural sports in college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could you imagine if you got in a deal for being on your intramural team?
Yeah, that would be pretty crazy. I mean, our intramural team, we were pretty terrible. I think I won like one game all 4 years. But yeah, I agree. Like some of these minor sports, it's really interesting to see kind of how they could benefit. Yeah, some of the things we may not see, as you're saying, they might get more of an ego, or their mindset might change in terms of the game as well. And just they're like, I've already got what I need. So it's interesting to see how that relationship will play out, I think.
All right, fellow panelists. Let's move to our final topic of the morning. We're going to segue from Jim's comment earlier that there's going to be lots of companies changing hands, or there's going to be more mergers and acquisitions sort of activity. Now, it's not a straight segue here, but I'm going to use that to get into the next one, which is we know that Golden was recently acquired by Collectors Holdings, and this morning I received an email from Golden Auctions announcing that they have launched their private sales division that's going to be headed up by a gentleman by the name of Landon Bailey, a name that may not be recognizable to many. It is to me because as someone who's bought cards from PWCC in the past, they often assign you an account rep, and he was assigned to me earlier this year. I went to send him an email a couple months ago, and I got like a response saying, please reach out to this gentleman or that one instead of Landon for the time being. I didn't know what was going on. Now I do. He was, I guess he was headhunted or plucked from PWCC by Golden and is leading their private sales division. So the thing that interests me here is that this is a division. Private sales division is something that people have been doing in the hobby, I guess, informally and formally for many, many years, but now it's being branded as a service by Golden, and PWCC does this as well. So is this Jim, you've obviously been around in the hobby for a long time, not to give away your age, but is this something, are you surprised that this is now being branded as a service level or as a service, or is this just the way things are going and you would have expected it?
Brands are really important in this industry. They always have been, but people are also really important, and strategies matter, all that stuff. Golden has it all going. They've got deep pockets now. My shock is that how PWCC doesn't have non-competes, because non-competes are not always easy to enforce, except that when it's a very, very direct transfer of doing something at one and then at a certain high level and then being, like you said, plucked away. I think there are going to be a lot more non-competes in this industry. People are going to want to lock down their good people, because then he can take his contacts, he can take this understanding of the strategy of how to do to a different kind of brand, because PWCC is a strong brand, but Golden is pretty out there for the best of the best at this point.
Well, you mentioned that non-competes, and I agree, they're really hard to enforce. You can't really stop somebody from earning an income. But it reminds me of you guys will be familiar with this case when Reed I don't know how to say the last name, but Reed Kasoka went from Baseball Card Exchange to Dave and Adams, basically to do the exact same thing. And he was very well known. He had connections all over the country. So Baseball Card Exchange lost him, probably just to a larger bid, just like what happened, I'm guessing, speculating with Landon moving from PWCC over to Golden. So Thoughts on that, just with that added context.
Well, one thing about Reed is Reed also had a personal reason for going to Dave and Adams, as his now wife lives in the Buffalo area. So, you don't want to prevent somebody from doing something that also has a personal reason. Reed has married the young lady. They are doing fine. I follow him on Facebook. He still travels the country, or he's not as much. So there's some of that too in his specific case. The thing is that, on private sales, and I don't want to talk about non-competes, but like Jim and I have a mutual friend who lives in the DFW area that owns a Wagner. And maybe he doesn't want to buy it through an auction. Maybe he wouldn't have wanted to buy it through an auction. Maybe if it came to them and they had contacted him and they said, would you like to pay X amount of money for this card? And he said, yes. Then nobody has to know about the transfer of that card. And it privately goes into his collection. And if at that level, sometimes you just want to be a private collector. You don't want to be public. You don't even maybe want to have a PSA registry. You don't want to do anything. You want to be quiet. You want to accumulate. So there are logical reasons for people not to be in the auction world. And that's what I wanted to say, is that's a brilliant move in terms of the amount of value of cards I'm sure Kenny is getting, and Kenny and his team are getting, that there's another outlet to sell them from, that they don't have to go through auction and maybe get disappointed by what the bid is, that it's pre-sold.
Yeah. Sam, what do you, someone who's newer, younger in the hobby, a lot of people, the hobby to them are their local card shows, eBay, and their local card shops. So from your perspective, does this surprise you, make sense? What do you think about this private sales division at Golden and PWCC and some of these card transaction companies?
Yeah. I think to Rich's point, like, I can definitely understand why someone might be more apt to make private sales at that point in time with, like, a bigger sale like a Wagner or whatnot. I mean, there's just a lot of attention in media now, as we've mentioned, within the hobby that they may not want. And so I definitely agree a private sales division could be helpful for those people who are just looking to collect and not deal with any of the media. But I also like the point that Dr. Beckett made about the relationships that you take, speaking of land and moving. I mean, the hobby, we always kind of talk about the hobby is about who you know and the relationships that you have. So that's definitely, I think, important to note as well. It's just kind of these movements within the different companies. You do take some relationships. So it's really interesting. One thing I think I've noticed too is just like with these companies, like they seem to stay once you kind of start a job in the hobby, in the industry, you do another job in the hobby, in the industry, maybe with a different company, but you kind of stick with it, which I think is kind of cool to see.
Well, look at the gentleman beside you. He worked for the gentleman beside him, and now he works at ComC. He's been out and around. Yeah, I completely agree with that, Sam. You often hear about people. Carvin Chung, who was with us earlier, may still be with us. He has moved from owning a card shop to working for Upper Deck, to working for Panini, to working for GTS. Like, people, once you're in, maybe a lot of people stay in. I'm interested to see where Joe Orlando pops up next, who, as we didn't even talk about, but who has recently stepped down as CEO of Collectors Universe, being replaced by Nat Turner. Where is he going to pop up next? I have a feeling we'll see him at the National. But anyone want to speculate? I know it's complete speculation, but does anyone want to take a stab at what Joe Orlando might do next?
Jim posted a podcast on that this morning, so I think. Oh. So I think we can. I will just say I agree with whatever Jim says on the subject.
How about
go and listen to Beckett Insights, because Jim actually posted about Giannis too. I saw a note about Giannis in the comments. So he posted his shorter comments this morning, his shorter podcast, one on Joe Orlando, one on Giannis. So I recommend them both because they answer questions we're discussing.
Jim, do you want to give us a small tease into the Joe Orlando podcast and lead some people over there?
I'm sorry, we're out of time. No, actually, non-competes that are broad are pretty unenforceable. But when they're narrow and relationships, you're going to do exactly the same thing. Can you imagine if Joe Orlando, there's an announcement next month or at the National that he's now with fill in the blank, any other grading company in a very senior level, bringing his credibility, his relationships. So, but usually in a public company, when you're a CEO, you get a package. He had some stock options. I went through what I think happened, but I would be surprised if he wasn't tied up for at least a year or two to do something, at least in the narrow sense of doing something exactly like what he did. But if he were to lead another or a new grading company, in 2 years and 1 day, we may see it. I don't think we're going to see it the day after the national, but I'm happy.
I will also point out that Joe's compensation was public knowledge because he was CEO of Collectors Universe. And Joe, 2 years ago, was over $1 million a year. And he never struck me as the ostentatious person. So I have a feeling Joe is doing just fine. Thank you very much. And I did speak privately with a friend of mine who's at Collectors Universe. And I asked him how he was doing. And he says, so far, we're all okay. And I know that Logan spoke to his primary contact at PSA. And there were people that were very depressed when they heard Joe was leaving the building. So, Joe had a lot of respect from people within Collectors Universe, and there's a lot to be said about that he had garnered a ton of respect and a ton of goodwill among his employees in the 22 years he was there. And that's a testament to him as a person. I'm skipping anything, I'm skipping anything that we think of him that, but the people who worked for him really appreciated him, and there's something to be said for that.
Yeah. And when you get those public disclosures, I also remember reading that he had enough a share count that put him over $10 million in proceeds on the sale of Collectors Universe to the Nat Turner Group. So he's just fine. And I agree with what Dr. Beckett said that with non-competes, the more senior you are, the more enforceable these things become. So that's been my perspective over time. I just want to say good morning to Elite Hunters, who shouts out to Uncle Rich and Dr. Beckett. Good morning to you. And, we are out of time, guys. So maybe we just end it there. I'll let everybody know that this evening on Sports Cards Live, that man right there will be joining me. We'll be getting into some more topics. So please join us then at what'll be 9 p.m. Central. Jim, I'll keep you for about an hour 15 tonight. I know it'll be a little bit late, so that'll be at 10 o'clock Eastern. So I want to let everybody know that. Sam, do you have any episode coming up on Women of the Hobby that you'd like to let the audience know about?
So I just did an episode yesterday that I normally do with Hannah, and then Monday I'm gonna do an episode we'll release with Women on Tops. It's an Instagram account, so if anyone wants to check that out, got to speak with the creator of that account, so it's pretty fun.
Jim, you, as Rich plugged for you, you've got the Joe Orlando podcast that released and the Giannis podcast. That's great. And Rich, anything from you before I play the outro video?
Yes, today is National Hockey Card Day. We've not talked about that, but Jeremy's a big hockey card guy. Jim did hockey card books before anybody else. Sam, you have the Atlanta Thrashers there, so I don't know if you collected any of their cards. But it's Hockey Card Day, and my teammates from ComC, Angela and Stefan, have come up, and we're going to go to the local stores, and we're going to buy hockey cards today and get our hockey card goodies. And I'm excited to get some hockey cards, which I normally don't get.
I love hearing your excitement. Jim, final comments? Well, then I'll read the final comments from the chat, and we'll get out of here.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks for quarterbacking. Welcome, Sam. Rich, always a pleasure. And again, we'll see y'all at the National.
All right, guys. Brody the Kid, thank you so much for that. Great to have you as always. Ziggy says, have a safe week traveling. Yeah, got to echo that to everybody in the hobby. Wonderful. 3B Collection, have a good day to yourself. Torsten, thank you for joining all the way from Germany. Brody, can't wait to see everyone at the National. We can't wait to see you. Ron Figg, 72 hours till Chicago. No doubt, says go Kings go. Thank you, Torsten. Have a great time at the National. Theoden Carey is definitely planning to get some free packs at the for National Hockey Card Day. Thank you, Logan. And Theoden says, everyone have a great time at the show. Everybody else, thank you for joining. Hobby Hotline. We'll see you all on here next week with a brand new set of panelists. Actually, live from the National. Never mind, it'll be live. From
And remember, it'll be Sunday, not Saturday.
I think there's a Saturday morning.
There's a Saturday one too. Okay, I know we're doing Sunday live from the stage. I don't know where we're doing Saturday.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining Hobby Hotline, and once again, welcome Sam to the panel.